everybody. This is my first Boston Hub presentation. I'm really excited here, as they mentioned, I've been part of the Boston Hub group for a while now, and then I came up with the idea and wanted to do it. So I'm currently, move on to the next slide, about me. I have a background in being a designer, so I'm just more so a creative problem solver who loves developing and implementing unique solutions and strategies based on the actual needs of clients, individuals, and also based on the, what's going on with HubSpot and what we can actually do. So I've been working with HubSpot since 2019, and I've been obsessed ever since. I started as a marketer working in HubSpot and took it over. And shout out to Sarah Flynn. I don't think she's here today, but she's the one that introed me. And then I said, I'm never going to work at a company again who does not use HubSpot. So I just keep getting closer and closer to HubSpot. As I mentioned, my background's in industrial design, graphic design, marketing, branding, and RevOps strategy. So I've been in part of a lot of companies and working with them to develop their strategies across all departments and then implementing that in HubSpot, which led me to my current role of being a HubSpot specialist at Bryant Works. So that's what I do every day now for lots of people all at once. So that was the other thing I survived in 2025, going from managing one HubSpot account to many HubSpot accounts throughout the year. Lastly, I am based in New Hampshire and love coffee a lot. My homebrew method is an AeroPress XL, and that's what I drink every single morning. I keep trying out new beans. It's the best thing. Quick intro about Bryant Works. So we're a HubSpot consulting firm that transforms businesses through strategic implementation. We're a HubSpot Diamond, HubSpot Solutions Partner Program, Diamond level, and we've serviced over 600 plus clients. We focus on operations and anything HubSpot with a human-centered approach. So we're always looking for discovery and just trying to understand you as people, as you as a business, and then helping you better strategize how you can utilize HubSpot and actually implement that for you. Some of our clients are Anthropic, Sequoia. I can't actually say that one. I should have practiced. HelloFresh, and many others. Like I said, we service over 600 plus clients since we started. What I'm going to share today are some of the more nitty-gritty features of HubSpot that you might not think about just being in HubSpot every day unless you're really thinking about what you can do in HubSpot. So I'm going to go through some calculated properties, and then I'm also going to go through conditional logic, as well as some things that you can do in the custom report builder that kind of combines all of these things. I'll be walking through what the problem was, what the logic is, and then the solution and how we actually build that in HubSpot, and then also do a walkthrough of how I implemented that and what that looks like. I also have a quick shout out. I do use Claude. Claude is our AI of choice, but I also use my brain because you can't use AI good unless you have your brain to think through it. And then also all of my colleagues and friends and other HubSpot pros and anything that I learned. So it isn't Claude that runs all of this, but Claude does help me write some of my formulas when I don't feel like writing out the formulas while I'm thinking through some of the logic and working through why things aren't working. But foundation first, we've already talked about dirty data. Dirty data is not great. Clean data hygiene is key in order to make these work. If we're running a calculation and the property information's not there, it's not going to run an accurate calculation for you. Additionally, consistent property usage. So you might have those properties in your HubSpot, but nobody's filling out the information. Again, kind of goes back to clean data, but clean data could also be wrong data versus blank data. Defined processes. So again, having those properties in and ensuring that everything's actually defined and being calculated or entered at the proper times. And then team buy-in. So, the fanciest automations are useless if people just bypass it and aren't in agreement with you. Again, starting with calculated properties here. So the first one I'm going to cover is easy peasy renewal information, dollar amounts. You're going to just learn that I have some fun ways to say things. And then calculating time between custom dates. This one's a little bit less fun of a title. So in regard to our easy peasy renewal information, dollar amounts, basically the problem was keeping track of renewal data and easily understanding what was an upsell, a downsell, or if it met the expectations for the year. So somebody like this company has their renewals, they're expecting this many people to renew at these amounts. And then as they're working through renewals, sometimes that goes up, they actually, upsell them, or it becomes a downsell, like that client's actually, decreasing their product usage. So we wanted to be able to track that and then report on that. So logic in a nutshell, reps add in an expected renewal amount. We utilize that number to calculate against the closed amount to see the amount difference, and then apply that amount in specified upsell or downsell properties to properly report on it. So I am creating a calculated property that runs a calculation once a renewal deal becomes closed won. If the amount is positive, sync to the upsell amount property. If the amount is negative, sync to the downsell amount. How we do that is we're going to navigate to the property editor in the settings. I'm not going to walk through some of those more hopefully obvious ways to find things. Quick Google search as well as how do I access new properties. So I just want to give that caveat as well really quick. I'm not going to walk through every single small detail to get to every setting page. So we're going to navigate to the property editor in settings. We're going to create a property. And then we're going to create it manually. This little extra UI button always makes it a little bit hard when you're just trying to create properties. But I know HubSpot's trying to push using their AI tools in order to create properties. Just create them manually for anything that I'm going to talk about today. We can see here we're going to add a name. I named it, Renewal Difference 2025. This client has very specific pipeline stages by year, so you won't need to do it by year when I talk through this, but you can just call it Calculated Renewal Difference. You can, right now my group is just deal information. You can create a renewal information group for your property, and of course, something descriptive for the description. Back to that data, clean data. We're going to create a field type of calculation. Calculated property type is going to be custom equation. The output type is going to be a number. The number format is going to be currency. If your account uses multiple currencies, then you're going to want to check off the check mark for use record currency instead of company currency. And then formula, write a formula to calculate the difference at closed won. And then a note. In calculations and in some of these more detailed fields and properties in HubSpot, you're going to need to use the internal IDs for values such as deal stages, products, pipelines, and more. So you can see here that my deal stage equals a unique ID. That unique ID is associated to the deal stage name. And you can find that if you go into your deal pipelines and then look for the little code icon, hover over it, and you can copy the internal ID for that deal stage. But that's going to be what all calculations are going to be looking for in HubSpot. You can see here that the formula says if deal stage equals the deal stage I'm looking for, then take the amount and subtract the expected amount. So that's where that expected amount property is important for us to have that difference. And then you can run a test. So right underneath the property as you're building it, you're going to have this little test section. Oops. You're going to enter in your values that you're going to track. As you can see here, I have that renewed 2025 renewals deal stage. They have very specific renewal years for their deal stages. And otherwise you would just have renewal. And then you can see I have that $10,000 amount. And then we have the deal stage being the correct deal stage for the enumeration. And then the expected amount is 20,000. You can see the sample output at the top left is negative 10,000. In order for us to populate the upsell and downsell amounts, those are two new properties as well. So you'd be creating two new properties, one being upsell amount, one being downsell amount. And then this is my workflow that I have built in order to copy that information over. So our trigger is going to just be based on renewal difference is known. The branch is going to check if that amount is positive or negative, which you can see on the left-hand side. Check if downsell, if the renewal difference is less than 0. Check if upsell, if the renewal difference is greater than or equal to 1. And then the next two, the branches come down over into edit records. You copy the positive amount to the upsell amount and the negative amount to the downsell amount. End result, these are the original amounts at closed won. This was the initial expected amount that the reps had entered. This is that total renewal difference. And then you can see the upsell amount and the downsell amount. They don't know why it's negative 37 cents either, but hey. We can see that there's a negative number. It went down by 37 cents. The next one is calculating time between custom dates. So the problem was they have two unique closed won stages in the pipeline, and they wanted to understand the average amount of time between the deal create date and both individual closed won stages and report on it. So logic in a nutshell, we're just going to be calculating the amount of time between deal create date and each closed won stage separately. So we create a calculated property that calculates the amount of time between the create date of the deal record and the date entered closed won 1, and do the same for closed won 2, and then create reports that average these amounts. So just to show you, this is their deal stage pipelines. Yep. So we have in the orange box the two that we have being one's being closed won, the other one's called enrollment complete. They also wanted to name them differently for the reporting purposes. So you can see that closed won start implementation also means contracted, and enrollment complete also means just enrollment complete. So again, accessing, creating a new property. We're going to name it number of days to contracted for this case. Our group currently is deal information, something descriptive. Field type again is calculation. This time we're going to be using time between for the calculated property type. The format is going to be duration. We're going to choose our start and end dates. So our start date here is create date. And then our end date is the date that the deal entered that particular stage. And then we also can set conditions. So this limits when the calculation runs. So that way we're not trying to run it at all times. We're only running it once the deal enters closed won. So enters the specific stage. If you wanted to add more conditions, like you also only wanted to run it on deals in Tennessee, I don't know. You can also add more limitations to only run this for particular deals. And I'm talking deals, but you can also implement some of these things for like contacts, companies, like any record that has a create and end, or like two dates that you want to compare to see like the two different, see that duration of time. You can do it across any sort of dates. This is just similar, but the second number of days. So this one's to the enrollment complete stage. Again, deal information, something descriptive, calculation, time between, duration, create date, and then the end date being the date entered this stage. And then again, the limitation here being when it enters that stage. And then here are our end results. So we have number of days contracted, you can see on the left, and then number of days to enrollment complete on the right. And that's just taking those two dates. Probably also should have shown you what those two dates looked like, but I think you understand how two dates and the number of time between them works. And then I also have this report. So you can also see the average number at the top for each of those two stages. So we have our 89.3 days for the number of days to enrollment complete average, and then 3.3 months for the number of days to contracted. And then you can see on below, they also wanted to break that down by their HubSpot team just to see how their team performance was. And you can see those two differences and then kind of compare them down the line as well. And then bonus, this one has more than two examples. So I have C calculated strings. So here we're trying to compare the total number of contacts that increased, decreased, or didn't change between values. Logic in the nutshell: if new value is greater than the initial value, set to increased. If the new value is less than the initial value, set to decreased. Otherwise, set to no change. So we created a calculated property that compares the second value to the first value and assigns a final value to the property. So again, we're going to be using calculation for the field type, custom equation for this one. The output is going to be a string because we're looking to export or like output it either increased, decreased, or no change. And then you can see the formula here is if empath number 2 number is greater than empath 1 number, set it to increased. If empath 2 number is less than empath 1 number, decreased, and then no change. And then this is what the report looks like. So we have this report that now shows you just by decreased, increase, and no change, the overall score comparison is what the tile is called. But you can see these total numbers and kind of see that information broken down more simply for understanding increases and decreases, which you could also utilize in a similar fashion for like the upsell and downsell for calculated renewals. Next, I'm going to be talking through some conditional logic. Display what you want when you want it, and mismatch property values no more. So for display what you want when you want it, we want clean record views based on where a record is at in its journey. So when a deal is open, show properties that are key to propel a deal forward. When a deal is closed won, show properties that are key for next steps for customer success. And when a deal is closed lost, show properties to display why the deal is closed lost. I'm sure you're all familiar with like, when a deal becomes closed lost, then we have them, reps fill out deal lost reasons. So that way we can better report on that down the line. So our solution is to use the custom record view editor to create property cards that display the appropriate properties based on the deal stage, and then apply conditional logic to each of those property cards. So to access this, you're going to go into your object settings in your settings, and you're going to go over to the record customization tab. This is going to allow you to be able to make edits to the record views of the object that you're updating. The default view is just the view for everybody. Your portal might be different because you can also create separate views for different teams. But this account just had a default view, so we're going to be editing the default view in this case. This is what it looks like. You can see the gray sections that are already created. These are all governed by conditional logic already. And then down here, I don't have the icon, but there's a little plus button, and so you can create a new property card. And then you would click on the little pencil icon to edit, not a formula field, you'd be editing a new property card. So apologies for my mistyping. Once you click on that, you're going to see edit card pop up on the right-hand side. You can see I have the card title being close lost information. So create a clear name for your card. Add your properties that you want to include. This one has a deal lost date, deal lost timing, deal lost reasons, and deal lost notes. And you can see on the even more right-hand side, there's a little preview section. So you can also select a preview of a deal that you have existing just to see what that information would look like. And then you would go back. You're going to just click on save at the bottom, of course. Always click save. And then to add the conditional logic, there's the 3 dots. So you're going to click on that. And you're going to have this little edit conditional logic button. And you can access the logic. So at this point, there's only one criteria that you're able to use for conditional logic for property cards. So this one's going to be using if deal stage is any of deal loss / fallout, then show this block. And you're going to review the logic and apply. So you can also hide blocks. If there were key information that you don't want to show at deal lost anymore, like you could also have something just hidden, then you would do so by using that conditional logic. So end result, now you can see here on this deal that was closed lost, that we have closed lost information that pops up, as well as deal fallout details is a separate conditional property card that I built for this account. And you can just see that there. So now you don't have to see closed won information, you're seeing closed lost, and you can see that a lot better on the individual record views. Other examples, so you can show hide property cards on company contact records to display customer-specific properties once a company or contact is a customer. You can also show hide property cards on company contact records if they are part of a specific industry to display industry-specific properties. Or you can show hide property cards on company record views that are of a specific persona or buyer role. So really, the world is your oyster. Maybe is the right saying. And you can kind of just think of what you'd want to see at a certain period of time and just kind of like build that in and only display the right information. Moving on to mismatched property values no more. So you can assign a company, or the problem was assigning a company an industry and a sub-industry, but reps were selecting mismatching sub-industries to the main industry. So when, the logic in a nutshell, when industry equals X, only display ABC in the sub-industry. So we're going to be utilizing conditional options on the sub-industry property to set up industry as a controlling property. How we do that is you're going to have, for instance, these were already pre-built. So we have an industry property and a sub-vertical property. We're going to open up the sub-vertical. So the one that we want to have controlled is the property you're going to open, and you're going to go under conditional options. Additionally, controlling properties can only be a drop-down, radio, or checkbox, etc. So we can see here now, there's going to be once you click on conditional options, you're going to see controlling property. We're going to be selecting industry in this case. So you'd be choosing whatever property that you want to use as the controller. And then this is going to pop up below. So when controlling property equals whichever one on the left, you're going to show X options for sub-vertical on the right. So you're going to start filtering. So I have automotive selected. You can see I have only these options checked off, and then auto dealerships, auto manufacturing, auto parts and tires, because that's related to automotive, which means when somebody accesses the industry property moving forward, they can select automotive. When sub-vertical pops up, they can only see, so there's 9 of them, but you can see those 3, they would only see those 3 properties or 3 values that they can choose. So end result, cleaner data with more ease and provides access to more accurate information. So now you can see this one is the home and field services example. So we see home and field services on the left, and we can see particular options here. If we look at the next one, if they clicked on professional services, we can see that that drop down looks different. And then again, with technology and software as well, different options that are available that were not available in the other two drop downs. Same could go with, and like another example of this would be great is like country and state/region. So of course, that way, if somebody selected United States, they would only see all of the states in the dropdown versus all of the global regions and states. So that's another option for like building out more clear pathways between your data. Lastly, I always custom report builder fun because I love the custom report builder. Well, it's a love-hate relationship, right? This one is filter 1 and 2 or 2 and 3 or anything. So there's, I'm going to look through some of the filtering options and then simplifying property values for clearer reporting. First one being filter 1 and 2 or 2 and 3 or anything. So you want to compare sales activity performance across specific time periods without creating multiple reports. For instance, show me activities by my top 3 reps, exclude notes, and compare last week versus this week side by side. So logic in a nutshell, instead of building separate reports for each week, create one report with grouped filter logic, rep A, B, or C, and activity does not equal notes, and date is last week or this week. Solution, custom filter rules in the custom report builder. So access reports on the left-hand side, and access to get to your reports. You're going to create a report, and then you're going to click on create report. What's key is you use custom report. Custom report is the best way to report in HubSpot, in my opinion. You're going to click on next. You're going to choose your data sources. So sometimes you do need multiple data sources. In this case, we're just going to be utilizing activities, which I do not have selected here, but that's what we would be choosing in order to build this specific report. And you can add more data sources if necessary. So if you wanted to compare your contacts against deals, you would add deals as an additional data source. Or if you wanted to report on activities and then wanted to add in contact information, you're going to want to add contacts as in add more data sources. We're going to select pivot table for this instance, and then we're going to add data. So the properties I'm adding for this report are activity assigned to, which is going to be seeing that individual reps, the activity type, the activity date, and the count of activities. Another thing to mention here, so if you're unaware, you can change how your activity, like your dates are displayed. HubSpot defaults to monthly, but if you wanted to see the daily number, the weekly number, quarterly or yearly, you can go into the little pencil icon and update the dates here. Or like your date formatting and frequency. I switched this one, I believe, to weekly since we're doing a weekly report. And then this is where we get into the filter rules, which I guess, did I forget to put in a filter slide? No, because this is our filters. So we can see we have filter rules. I have 1 and 2 and 3, or 1 and 2 and 4. So what that looks like, our first group being 1 and 2 and 3, we have activities assigned to is any of those reps. Group 2 is activities, activity type is none of note because we want to make sure notes are not included. And then activities date is last week. And then our second grouping is, again, still 1, 2, and 4. So we have activities, activity date is this week, and now we can see both of these. Another option, just to show the same thing but kind of different, this one's a little bit more simple of 1 and 2 or 1 and 3. And that's because you can still also group your filters in the filter rules or the custom rule builder. So we can have group 1 being these 2 filters, and then group 2, and then group 1 being these 2 filters, and then group 2. And what that looks like in this report here is now we can see activity rep is on the, or like activity assigned to is on the far left. We can see last week on the left-hand side, and then on top of that, see it broken down by the activity type. And then we have this week. So we can see the progress of this week compared to last week. And then I also have, this is the monthly one that I built very similarly, but again, just using like the months instead of weeks. This one's actually by number of new like deals that the reps were creating. So we can see by new deals by November versus new deals created in December, and then new deals closed, lost, or won in November versus lost, won in December. The next one's going to be simplifying property values for clearer reporting. So the problem currently tracking if somebody who is hired has benefits by asking them which benefits that they have for reporting purposes. And they just wanted to see, like, just by do they have benefits or do they not? But right now they're tracking by all sorts of all of their benefits. And I'll show you. We'll see. So the logic in a nutshell, we're going to be calculating. It's going to be another calculated formula, but it's going to be within the custom report builder. So we can calculate if benefits provided is known, then group them into has benefits. If unknown, group them into no benefits. And so the solution is to create a custom formula in the custom report builder to create groupings without having to create another HubSpot property for deal records to show yes, no, has benefits. So this helps us have less overall properties in our system to manage. Granted, to get that access, you're going to have to go under product updates. It's currently a feature under in beta for HubSpot. So you're going to have to go into product updates in your account and then search for formula to find the public beta. It is public, so don't you worry. And then enroll your company into accessing the formula fields. And this is what it looks like. It's the formula fields update in custom report builder. So you can start building formula fields right in the reports, which I'm so excited about. So this is what the report builder looks like with this in here. So you can see formula fields at the bottom. You can edit a formula field or create a formula field here. You are limited to 5 per report. So you can't like just keep adding many, but it's a pretty good amount, I would say. And then in this case, after we build this formula field, we're going to be using the formula as a breakdown for this. So we can see here, we have our formula section. You're going to write a formula to check if the property is known and group appropriately. So you can see that if deal benefit provider is known, then it's going to be set to has benefits. If it's not, then it's going to be set to no benefits. And you can see the results. This one, you don't have to run a test. It just automatically calculates your data in the custom report builder formula builder. And you can see here that we have some that are set to has benefits. And you can also see like benefit provided, there's like health insurance, retirement savings, sick leave. So we just want, instead of like that counting as 5 different benefits being provided, it's just saying, yes, they have benefits versus like somebody who has just health insurance is still, yes, has benefits. So our reporting end result here, and this is that original report where it was just broken down by every single benefit. But again, somebody might have 5 of these benefits. So they're counting against all of these groups. And we just wanted to see, do they have benefits or do they not? So now we can see the report in a much more simpler fashion of, if I can read, about 40% of them have benefits and 60% of them do not have benefits, which is harder to understand looking at the report on the left-hand side. Another one I have here, formula field. We're doing, again, using the formula as the breakdown for our access here. This formula is a little bit longer, but that's because we're looking to group so we have bucketed days between contact create date and hire date. So we have when the contact was created versus when they actually started their job. And then we wanted to see within a range, like 0 to 30 days, 30 to 60 days. We wanted to see it bucketed. So we're comparing those dates and then assigning their grouping based on that value. In order for you to have that nice access of going from 0 to 30 all the way up to 100, you do need to add all the leading zeros to maintain the order. And then you can see the results here just as the formula review. On the left-hand side, we can see we have 0.61 to 0.90 days for the 60 to 90 days. So that you could see my entire little formula here, I did put in the overall formula that I have. And then this is reporting end result 2. So we can now see, you can see on this chart here that we have 0 to 30 days at the beginning at 11, and you can see all the way about 69 of them took over 365 days from create date to start date for their job. quick breakdown of where to start. I just covered a bunch of things, and you don't know where to start. So I created this implementation priority matrix by impact and complexity. So we have our quick strategic wins that are going to be high impact, a little lower complexity. So that's going to be our renewal tracking with calculated properties. So calculating that renewal difference and then being able to see an upsell and downsell amount. And those formula fields for simplified report values. So that's going to be that has benefits, no benefits reporting. And then the basic conditional record views. So like if deal is closed, lost, show this property card. Lower impact, some of the easier improvements is that simple conditional card visibility, which I guess is kind of tied to that basic conditional record views, but being able to just show those property cards, the basic property grouping, so just like grouping your properties into more meaningful groups, and then some of those standard calculated properties. Advanced techniques, the conditional property options, so the controlling properties, setting industry with sub-industry, or again, like the country to state. The complex report filters with the and/or logic, so some of like the more detailed reports that I shared, those are going to be a little bit more advanced. And same with the date difference calculations for engagement, maybe not too advanced because it is just another calculation, but that's going to be like my top 3. And then skip for now anything that's like super complex that you really need to think through to ensure and test with complex workflows without clear ROI. You don't want to be building those. You want to make sure you have everything that, like, you want to be in alignment with your team before you start getting crazy, because you don't want to be building things that you think are cool and then nobody's going to use them and then it's not impactful for you overall. So just review everything and confirm if it's useful for the team before you just start building.